Hello everyone, it's Gene and I'm back with another video. And take a look who's here. Saturday is Saturday, Saturday is Saturday. Or if you like to say around here, Saturday night or Saturday night's alright for opining on Twitter. Thank you, Elton John. And thank you, RJ. Please don't scratch me. Now, I haven't just come across this. I actually didn't plan to make a video today because I was trying to take a little bit of a break because I've been making so many videos recently. And I need a bit of a break. But I saw this and, well, I do not tolerate She-Hulk disrespect too well, because she's indeed one of my favorite Marvel superheroines, especially when I was a younger person. And while I've never even at my fittest had the physique she had, I did. How do I put it? I wanted what She-Hulk had when I was growing up, which was the ability to embrace everything that made her different, right? I was the taller kid, I was the bigger kid, and while I did not style my hair like this when I was a young child, I had very long hair actually. I've actually had long hair for most of my life. Shorter looks are fairly recent, but still. I was not the size of other kids, right? In a group of 7-year-olds, I looked like I was 10, right? So that's kind of what I went through growing up, and as a child, I wanted Wolverine's bravery and courage, and I wanted She-Hulk's ability to embrace everything that made her different. She embraced the fact that she was like 6'8", 600 pounds, muscular as hell, and green. And she was beloved for it in and outside comics, and I wanted that. Never quite achieved that, but that's what I wanted. So while I don't know exactly what kicked off this debate between Studio Super and Kaiser Electric, who, and I want to point out here, Kaiser Electric describes themselves as a weirdo ace demi boy, he, him, and artsy writer dude. So there's masculine pronouns here, and I will be using masculine pronouns to refer to this individual. So I don't know exactly what kicked off this debate because it says, as you can see, sort of framing at the top and underneath Kaiser, whatever the original tweet was has since been deleted by the tweet author. But I want to go over Kaiser Electric's responses in particular here and why I take issue with them. Right, so Studio Super says it's not much of a stretch to say that She-Hulk in character has always been attractive and has thrived on that. The whole fact that they try to retcon this and say women don't have to be attractive is one of the laziest excuses they have for changing a character like She-Hulk. I would agree. She-Hulk is notable for her attractiveness, both in appearance and personality, because the point of the She-Hulk form, or the Hulk form in general, is that it's an expression of the id. It's an expression of your inner self, right? The Hulk form is different for each person, right? Amadeus Cho Hulk is different than Banner Hulk, is different than She Hulk, is different than Doc Samson, and so on and so on and so forth, right? It's an expression of a repressed part of your personality or your ego, right? Of course, most famously with Bruce Banner, there's always been this Jekyll and Hyde thing, and his Hulk form has always been an expression of his uncontrollable rage at the expense of his intelligence to temper it, right? Whereas with She-Hulk, even in 1980, because here's the thing, the character was created by Stan Lee. She was supposed to be, at the time, the last character Stan Lee would create. She was created in 1980. John Byrne would take over the character, I think, while she was on the Fantastic Four, taking more or less taking Ben Grimm's place on the team in the mid 80s, around 84, 85. And then finally in 1989, I believe it was, 88 or 89, she would get her own solo series comic written by John Byrne. And that's where we get sort of the She-Hulk everybody knows, right? She's fun, she's flirty, she's sassy, she's very intelligent. Uh, she's very liberated, woman of the 1980s, right? Much more lighthearted action comedy type of read. I've actually read most of that run. I've read most of that run. I also read, I think it was last year, the Sensational She-Hulk graphic novel that John Byrne wrote think around 84 or 85 because she's still on the Fantastic Four at this point, I believe. Very interesting read. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. It's fan servicey. If you're bothered by that, I am not. But I enjoyed it. I tend to like John Byrne's work, although there is some stuff he did at DC that was completely like, did you lose a bet? Because this makes no sense. All I gotta say is Superman, Big Barda, X-rated movie. That's all I'm gonna say about it. It's a weird. John Byrne's work in the '80s was weird. It was either very good or very bad. There was no place in between. But getting back to She-Hulk, it was under John Byrne's pen mainly. He would sort of be in and out because this is John Byrne. He always hops in between companies when they start pissing him off. But it would sort of be that comic run in the late '80s, going I think to the early to mid 1990s. I think it ran for around 3 to 4 years, so it would have gone a fair distance into the early '90s, where you sort of get the sort of tropes that She-Hulk is associated with, whether it's breaking the fourth wall, the more lighthearted action comedy type tropes. I think the whole hypersexuality thing was more a Dan Slott thing that came years later, but anyhow, right? John is considered by a lot of comic fans to sort of be She-Hulk's daddy in a sense, right? He's the one who sort of made the character what most people know her to be, right? Stan Lee created her, but John Byrne is her daddy, right? That type of thing. So, attractiveness has always been a distinct element of the She-Hulk form because being attractive and beautiful and flirty has always been a desire of the very mousy, quiet Jen Walters, right? She-Hulk is meant to be what Jen Walters wishes she was, right? It's an expression of everything she desires to be, right? So then Kaiser Electric says, wow, damn, you accuse me of strawmanning, and then you turn around and accuse me of arguing that women aren't attractive. So then Kaiser goes on to say, yes, I'm not saying, I don't know what the tweet above was. Says, yes, I'm not saying that she can't be attractive. I'm saying it's really weird that people insist that her being attractive is some untouchable character trait when it never applies to men. Now, here's the thing, and I did retweet this. Tell me last time in the comics you've ever seen Bruce Wayne ugly. Tell me when in the comics you've ever seen Wolverine handsome. Not in the movies, not played by Hugh Jackman. Even then, they had to make him more rugged, right? Even if he is typically more attractive than Wolverine is typically depicted. But in the comics, when is Wolverine traditionally handsome? When is Wolverine a pretty boy, right? Tell me last time Wolverine ever even casually resembled Gambit or similar characters, right, who are noted for being very handsome and attractive. He's not. In this particular case with She-Hulk, attractiveness is a distinct feature of her form because it is literally the outer expression of one particular woman's innermost desires to be beautiful, right? To be exceptionally good looking. Because again, Jen Walters is very meek and mousy and plain. She-Hulk is basically the rock star that uh, Jen wishes she was, right? It's supposed to be the empowered female fantasy from a woman. Granted, it's written by a man, but still, this is coming out of a woman's mind, right? In story, a woman's desires is the suppressed element of herself, expressing itself in the She-Hulk form. So yes, her being attractive in this particular case is an untouchable character trait. Same way that you can't make Wolverine bald or take away his sideburns or his crazy hairstyle or just his general hairiness uh, in general, right? It is a distinct character trait. And that applies to men as well. Nightwing is never depicted as ugly. Gambit's never depicted as ugly. Scott Summers isn't depicted as ugly. What about Thor? Iron Man? They're never depicted as unattractive because they're meant to be handsome. When you start altering characters' appearances, people get upset. Have you not seen all the Tila drama? And then, of course, Studio Super responds with, do you seriously think Thor would keep his appeal if he wasn't attractive? Heck, do you think men go shirtless in Marvel movies? Jason Momoa drew in a lot of ladies, even a lesbian, even made a lesbian I know question her sexuality. You don't hear us men complaining about it. To which Studio Super is correct again, right? Thor is meant to be a god, right? He's the Norse god of thunder, so there's a certain image associated with that, right? Especially when one takes in the comic depiction, which, yes, makes him a lot more handsome than he probably truly would have been if the depiction was closer to, say, how he is described in Norse myth. But it wasn't about being a perfect depiction or an accurate depiction of Norse myth. It plays very fast and loose because in the end it's a superhero story, and superheroes are meant to represent the ideals, both visually and as characters. We're supposed to look up to them, be inspired by them. So then Kaiser responds with, you weren't arguing that being attractive made her appealing, but it is what makes her appealing. It is a distinct trait, just as distinct as her green skin. Jen Walters as She Hulk is attractive inside and out. Then it says that you were arguing that her specifically being attractive to you is a core part of her character. Studio Super was not arguing that. Studio Super was arguing why uh, you cannot change She Hulk and make her less than conventionally attractive. Because that's always been a part of the character. I don't think Studio Superhero at all has said anything about whether or not they personally find She-Hulk attractive, right? So as Studio Super says, I never argued for me. That's you trying to project. I said the ideal feminine form. Correct. And whether you like it or not, that is a core part of her character. Exactly. She likes the attention she gets. A She-Hulk? Maybe you mean as She-Hulk. Which is true. She does like the attention that she gets as She-Hulk, to the point where there's something that happens in the Fantastic Four books, but more or less what happens is that she loses the ability for a very long time to switch between Jen Walters and She-Hulk, so she ends up being She-Hulk all the time, and she's absolutely thrilled with this because she gets to be what she's always wanted to be all the time. So then Kaiser Electric says, and here's the thing. This response right here proves that Studio Super mentioning that Kaiser Electric was being a bit selfish is correct, right? Because Kaiser Electric says, yes, because forcing characters to conform to narrow standards of beauty is boring and dumb to me. And just as many people agree with me as with you, probably more so. Oh? I have a tweet that just might prove you wrong. I'll show you. It says here, I think muscular She-Hulk is awesome. And I really don't give a flying F how feminine she is. Ah, but here's the thing, Kaiser. Here's the thing, Kaiser. You have now made this all about you. Studio Super was arguing why being She-Hulk being attractive is a distinct character trait for the that you cannot change because it is distinct to her. Attractiveness is indeed a part of the She-Hulk form and character for Jen Walters. You reveal your true motivations in this particular tweet, saying that uh, forcing characters to conform to narrow beauty standards is boring and dumb to you, and that you think muscular She-Hulk is awesome. Guess what? I do too. She-Hulk has always been muscular. The difference is that she didn't look like a female version of Hulk. She wasn't uber bulky like many female bodybuilders are today, because you have to remember the time period she comes from. Made in 1980, got her own solo series at the end of the decade. Women's bodybuilding looked very different then. Take a take a look at or look up images of the first Miss Olympia, Rachel McClish. It's very different than what you would typically see today. She was not a mass monster that you would see now, right? It's a very bulky uh, individual, right? She's very feminine, very beautiful, right? And again, very toned. It would look, I think if it were today, she would probably be in the bikini division, I would say, right? If she were young again and competing now, right? So here's the thing. You are trying to force a particular character to conform to a certain beauty standard. Now, perhaps that beauty standard is the opposite and the antithesis of the traditionally feminine female beauty standard, but it is still a beauty standard, right? Here's the thing. You can prefer muscular She-Hulk, uber muscled She-Hulk all you like. That form is not true to the character. It never will be true to the character. A proper visual depiction of She-Hulk has her as muscular and indeed very feminine. Long flowing hair, toned, slim muscles. Any depiction that is not explained, like for example, she gets hit with too many gamma rays, whatever. It's one thing if you give her a vastly different appearance and you explain it in story in some fashion, but to just change her sort of default appearance, right? And just say, oh, she's uber muscular now, and that's just how she is. No, that doesn't work. That will not be accepted by longtime fans, such as myself. Just as Wolverine is the expression of wild, violent, violent side of masculinity, right? He's rugged, he's tough, he's hairy, he's got claws, right? Just as he's an expression of this very dark, uh, violent side of the masculine personality, right? Just as he's the wild man, She-Hulk is the ideal feminine, right? She is again female strength and beauty. To take that away from her, just because you personally like the more muscular, bulky version, is still to violate everything that She-Hulk is as a character, everything she has represented for the past 40 years. It would be akin to making Superman ugly. It would be akin to taking away his ability to fly. It is a distinct element of the character. You cannot change that. It is too ingrained. And if you do change that, guess what happens? People get upset. This is not about you, Kaiser Electric. This is not about what you want. This is about what is best for the character, what makes sense for the character, not about what you personally prefer. If you personally prefer a more muscular She-Hulk, that's fine. There is always fan art. That's the purpose of fan art, to draw what exists in the way you would like to see it. But that does not give you, or by extension, modern writers who may agree with your sensibilities, the right to violate what the character literally is. This is like making Wolverine happy. It just doesn't work. And then there's some more stuff about here. So Kaiser says, so why does something not being a runaway financial success mean that I can't enjoy it? But here's the thing you're misunderstanding, Kaiser. No one's saying you can't enjoy it. Now, you are in the minority. You're in the minority of individuals who enjoy it. But no one's saying that you can't. Taste is subjective. But again, what you're advocating for are fundamental changes to a character for no other reason than you personally enjoy it. You're doing the same thing Kevin Smith did with He-Man and with Teela. changing fundamental elements of He-Man, Teela, King Randor, and many other characters simply because it's what he wanted to see back when He-Man was originally on TV. What you are displaying, Kaiser, whether you realize it or not, is gross disrespect for the character, gross disrespect for John Byrne, gross disrespect for Stan Lee. Hell, as much as I don't like him, even gross disrespect for Dan Slott. Because they all contributed to whom She-Hulk is today. They are her fathers. You don't have to agree with everything they did with her. I think Dan Slott turning her basically into a sex-crazed whore was incredibly stupid. Having her sleep with Juggernaut, incredibly stupid. But, again, they are the men who made her. Fans like myself are the ones who saw something beautiful and idealistic in her. That you cannot see that does not mean that the character needs to change. Perhaps, as In Vogue likes to say, you should free your mind and the rest will follow. Be colorblind, although in this case the color would be green. Don't be so shallow. Just a piece of advice from one of my favorite songs. So, this seems to go on and on and on, talking about citations and whatnot, and then a recent Marvel relaunch. If the comics were doing well, would they need to relaunch? I mean, look how many times Captain Marvel, Carol Danvers, who was another character that I once greatly admired, uh, would you really need to relaunch all of these titles and all these characters if they were actually working out? And then Kaiser says, the people who like the new She-Hulk aren't real fans. Wah! Again, completely misunderstanding and mischaracterizing the argument. No one's saying you aren't a real fan. What we're saying is that you are basically doing what the creators do, which is not showing respect for the character, so you're being an incredibly disrespectful fan. If you like the changes made, that's fine, but you are in the clear minority when it comes to this. I'm not questioning your cred as a real fan. I don't know how much you know or don't know about She-Hulk. What I do know though is that you are being clearly selfish by saying that you like it and you don't understand what the problem is. And your own tweets prove that. Well, I like it. I don't want her to, conform to beauty standards, and I don't care how feminine she is. Okay, but then what about me? What about other readers who grew up with the character? What about her original creators, the late great Stan Lee? What about them? What about what people have known about She-Hulk for the past 40 years? Does none of that matter to you because you prefer this new uber bulky version, which is a complete bastardization of who she is as a character? So then we get accusations of gatekeeping, right? It's very funny watching you gatekeep this hard and then complain that the guys you whine about are not being real fans, the ones people driving people away. Sir, if anybody's gatekeeping, it's you. It's not Studio Super. Studio Super, I don't see them at once in this questioning whether or not you're a real fan. You are projecting. You are creating a straw man and trying to tear it down. Nobody mentioned gatekeeping up until you did at this particular moment. So perhaps you might want to check yourself on that. Right? So then another person pops in saying that they lost brain cells reading this. I didn't lose brain cells. I actually found this a bit interesting. And then it says here that let the fans cite something what they like. You nor any other fan get to tell people what is or isn't She-Hulk. But the fans do. The fans do get to say what is and what isn't She-Hulk. What is most commonly accepted is what becomes canon. So yes, fans to a certain degree do get to say who and what She-Hulk is, right? If you suddenly paint She-Hulk purple and the fans go, she's not purple, she's green, then guess what? The fans have decreed she's green. Right? I'm actually sick of this stupid stuff. It's comics. If you don't like it, move on. Well, here's the thing. I probably would if it wasn't for the fact that you're altering a character I literally grew up with. For example, I don't talk much about Riri Williams or America Chavez. You know why? Because they're newer characters and I don't care. But you are literally trying to change a 40-year-old character for no other reason than your own personal desires. Because, see, if I wrote America Chavez, let's put it like this. If me, my straight as hell ass, wrote America Chavez, she'd be chasing men all over the place. She'd be lusting for guys like no one's business. Because I'm a heterosexual and I'm attracted to men. But you see, if I did that, then the LGBTQ community would get quite mad at me. Why? Because the character has never been envisioned as a straight woman. She's been bisexual. I think in the Ultimates she was confirmed to be bi, and then of course in that god awful solo series by Gabby Rivera back in 2017, she was a painful stereotype of a lesbian. But she's never been straight. Now you see, if I were to write her book and I write her as a comical depiction of a lusty straight woman, aka myself, well then, guess what? People would get mad at me. Because that's not the character. But here's the thing. It's not happening to a newer character. It's not happening to Riri or to America Chavez. It's happening to a beloved classic character. Because y'all know damn good and well if I did that, or someone as cheeky as I am did that, you would have the fit of fits. You want to alter the stuff I grew up with, but you don't want anyone to touch the stuff you grew up with or has been made to appeal to people like you, Mr. Demi Boy. Right? And then another person pipes in saying to calm down. This is a Twitter beef. There's no such thing as calming down. It's too late. There is no way to calm down. Let's see if this loads, right? So we have Dante for the win, right? And then it says here, modern She-Hulk is not beautiful, and don't say I don't like muscular women. People just don't like muscular women with man face and man's torso, no breast. I agree. Women can be muscular and feminine. Modern She-Hulk isn't. That is true. But what's even worse about modern She-Hulk isn't just the butchering of her design. What's worse about her is the butchering of her personality. Just like with Tila recently, they have bastardized the character's personality more than they ever have their physical appearance. She-Hulk has literally been reduced to being depressed all the time. Not struggling with depression, not trying to get out of it, not trying to cope with it, not trying to get over it. Simply depressed all the damn time. I don't want to read that. I already lived that. I don't need to see it in a comic book, especially if there's no resolution to it. But not only is she depressed all the time, but she literally settles all of her problems by punching stuff out. You have literally made her just this brute. Even in her She-Hulk form, she's just this brute who literally thinks that me punch, me punch, me punch, me smash will solve her problems. She's acting like the Hulk. If I wanted to read the Hulk, I'd read the Incredible Hulk. But anyway, that's the video. Please let me know what you think, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a good day, night, wherever you are.